Hello, friends. There we go. We actually have all our monitors up and running, I believe. All right, thank you for joining me this beautiful Good Friday morning. I hope it's beautiful where you are. It's unbelievably beautiful. In fact, my wife and I were walking last night, and please understand my heart does go out to everybody who's scared, and everybody who's sick, and everybody who's dying, and everybody who's lost. So please understand that. But just for one perspective, the last 3 weeks for me have been like a taste of heaven. Very few meetings. Stay at home and paint almost all day. The weather has been gorgeous. Springtime in North Carolina is like, other than those of you who suffer from allergies again, but the flowers are just jaw-dropping. Anyway, and I'm staring out the front window right now. Anyway, it's been, and we've had, I don't think I've gained any weight, which is a wonder because around here at our house, we've been eating like kings. I think we're clean, oh, look at leg of lamb in the freezer. Who'd have thought? Anyway, again, my heart goes out to those of you who are in difficult circumstances, but my goodness, we're having a great time around here. All right, let's get official. This is Daily Art Adventure number, I have to look, 887. Woohoo! Hello, Trudy and Bonnie. Excellent, excellent. Daily Art Adventure 887. All that is just for play, as you probably know. I don't usually say that. It has nothing to do with anything. I'm excited about, now, this is going to be a short broadcast. This will probably be part one. Started this painting yesterday. Let me pull down my reference just for a minute. So this is a photograph of our main street in downtown Raleigh. It's called Fayetteville Street. It's about only 6 blocks long. At one end, behind the camera here, is the Capitol building, Capitol of North Carolina. At the other end is the Greek architecture, is Memorial Auditorium or Maimandi or whatever. That's where the symphony and the musicals and so on. And I've painted, this is the one scene, this street, I've probably painted 100 times. I don't know, I haven't counted, maybe 200 in the last 15 years. It is certainly the one subject that I've painted more than any other single subject. And this is a commission, so I'm doing it again. And I started last night. You can watch me do that if you want, go back. This is so far all acrylics, acrylics plus pencils, as you can see. But here's what's happening. Today, I am launching into a great experiment. And you get to watch me. Either this will be a disaster and I'll never do it again, or this will be a breakthrough, launching me into the next era of my painting career. We'll find out. And it's a commission painting, so usually one does not experiment on commissions. Except number one, I feel pretty confident about it. Fairly confident, like 70-30, 75-25. I think it's going to work out. But I also, the person I'm doing this for, my friend Scott, is quite familiar with my work, and he really liked some of my earlier work where the abstract underpainting really showed through. Does that make sense? So he's in favor of that. So, all right, some of you know I start all of my paintings with by covering the canvas with an abstract painting. And then I throw lots of abstraction into it all the way along, like these pencil marks that are just crazy. All right, for years now, I've been trying to figure out a way how to maintain, how to let some of the things happen, some of the things that occur during the early stages. I'm having a hard time spitting this out. how to get those to still show up in the final stages of the painting. Are you with me? Because typically what happens is, like, at this point in the painting, I go, oh man, I love what's happening here, 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 here. But when I get to the end of the painting, it's like, in spite of what I think are my best efforts, they end up being covered up. Doggone it, I say to myself, covered it up again. I've tried a couple different things, several different things to try to remedy that. Well, today I'm going to try a couple more. Well, not a couple, I'm going to try one more. And this is probably by far the most radical thing I was going to say that I've ever done. I mean, this is the most radical thing I've done toward this end, this elusive goal of having abstraction show through. All right, so I'm going to mask, like with masking tape, except not with masking tape. All right, I'm going to mask with tape. I already have one little piece right here that you probably can't see. That's right. Let's start doing it. So, last night, I'm downstairs in my downstairs studio now, so that means we're going to have a lot of family background noise all day long here. Last night, there's our dining room over there, and I was sitting in my chair there at the end of the table, looking at this painting, all during supper. And during the course of supper, I espied from across the room several bits of this painting. I thought, oh man, I sure would like to keep that in the final painting, right? So that's part of the story here. Is I was sitting across during a nice, wonderful meal and staring at the painting. I've debated in my mind for quite some time, what would I use to mask? What would I use? Wax paper, saran wrap, paper, anyway. I finally decided, wait, packaging tape. All right, so this whole area up here, this is again, I'm not looking for things that are realistic, you understand? Now, this is not an experiment toward realism. This is an experiment toward abstraction. All right, so one of the areas of this painting that I just love right now is this whole area right up here. Now, this is the first time I've done this, so I'm certainly just experimenting. And as I said, it might end up being a bit of a disaster, but I don't think it will be. I don't think it will be because, of course, for one thing, my parachute, my safety net in all of this is my final edit layer, right? That's nothing new. That's always the case. Now, the thing I'm most worried about is ending up with here, I'll show you, with square bits. This is what I don't want showing. I don't think that right there, right? Or this dimension either. So my thinking at the moment is to be sure to apply the tape in a messy manner. I think that's got most of this area. Again, I'm not like I wouldn't run a piece of tape, I don't think, along that edge. I think that would be except for that little bit right there. All right, so again, let me predict then a little bit, tell you where I think I'm going to be going. Hello, Judy. Quilts in watercolor? Good, glad it's interesting. Again, for anybody who's new, like Judy's Quilts and watercoloring, this is acrylic. In a little while, I switched to oil. My paintings always end up as oil paintings. I tell other artists, the technique, it's acrylic underneath, but the general public, I just tell them it's an oil painting, okay, so you understand. So I'm still in acrylics. I'll be in acrylics for a couple more hours, maybe. And so this tape is only going to work during the acrylic phase. Then I'm going to take it all the tape off, and then I'm going to glaze the whole painting in oil, and then from then on, from that point onward, of course, I'm in oils, and this tape will not work at all in oils. So I'm still scratching my head about what I think, honestly, saran wrap might be the best, or wax paper, just literally sticking in onto the oil paint. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Let me tell you some more, or not tell you. my device here just committed Harry Carey on me. That's not supposed to happen. All right. Some more bits of this painting that I just this area right here, the pink, and you might say, well, why do you like that spot? And there is no answer for that question. That is to say, there's no objective, analytical. It's not, again, it's not because it's realistic. In fact, quite the opposite normally. I just like this, the way the colors, and how did I achieve these colors? Again, you regulars, you know this, through several layers. So all of this was an accident. I like this red line right here, and I like this blue-green swoosh, or I like this one too. Anyway, that's too much. So let me just start putting down, again, trying to disguise the corners, mostly the corners of the tape. Oh, I'll show you right now, I also brought down from my studio a cutting mat board, and an X-Acto knife, so that if I want to, I can put tape on here. So you might see me doing that in a few minutes. Hi, Alicia. Trying something new. I'm thinking probably this tape will stay here throughout the acrylic phase, of course. Then I'll take it all off, and then I'll start another and or separate batch of masking in the oil phase. Now, let me zoom in here just for a second so you could just see what I like. I just like this little accident. Again, all of this is accident, right? I like that little bit of yellow there, that little bit of white. Now, to those of you who follow me regularly, you understand that this is all in the same trajectory of where I've been heading for years, actually. This is just the latest experiment in that. Ooh, man, I love that right there. I'm a little worried that it might be too close worried. This is me worried. I'm a little worried it might be too close to the edge, but it's so beautiful. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to mask it off, knowing that in the oil glaze, I can diminish it, I can push it back without wiping it out. Okay, so now some of you are saying, well, wait, what about, isn't that tape going to, is it likely to mess up the surface of the canvas so you have archival? Believe me, all that kind of stuff is what I've been pondering, and it's an experiment for sure. We'll only know in 200 years if I have messed with the archival quality of the paint on the canvas. So please, you come back in 200 years and let me know. I don't mean come back. I'll come back. You can tell me if it messed up. I think I'm safe. I think I'm just going by my gut instinct about stuff, about the stuffness of stuff here. Oh yeah, that mark right there. That's okay. This is the last one. And then after each layer is what I'm proposing, so to speak, in my painting process. All right, I think that's good enough for now. So now I'm going to paint. Two directions I want to go. Either I'm going to glaze and then draw with brushes, or I'm going to draw with brushes. I'm going to glaze. Okay, so I'm going to glaze next. Let's get out some acrylic medium. This is GAC 200. I've got GAC 200 because I did an outdoor painting not too many months ago, and I used, and GAC 200 is it's a golden product. The G in GAC stands for golden acrylic something, GAC. Okay, so see, there the masking is at work right now because I can't paint where that tape is. This is a morning painting, morning light painting. But the sky is not going to, it's going to be bluer, I mean, it's going to be yellower, warmer than the photograph, but not this warm. This is underpainting color, essentially. It's going to be mostly a blue sky. Okay? What is the reason for the medium on the brushes, the GAC, the acrylic medium? It allows me to apply a very thin glaze layer of color. If you use water to make your acrylics that thin, if you use water, then it will just run off your canvas. So if you want a very thin layer of color, you have to use a medium. Now all of my, okay, let me hold this up just for a second. My paints are already in little containers that I have mixed. They're about 50-50 paint and acrylic medium. Now that's only because the paints that I'm using are already liquid, fluid acrylics, and the pigment content, if you will, is fairly low in those paints. Otherwise, like if it was if those paints were out of a tube, like and a really good quality acrylics like Golden or Matisse, the ratio would be more like 70-30 or 60-40, more medium than paint, in other words. Right at the moment, I'm doing a pale. So I'm actually kind of really enjoying this at the moment. This notion that I'm that I can slap this. Whoops! I just lost a piece of masking there. Oh, and there it came off. So that'll help me see what it's going to look like. And yeah, there's likely to be little, edges of the masking. So I'll keep that in mind. I don't. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. So conceivably, I'll get better at this masking business if I persist. If this experiment proves successful, then I do more of it. Hopefully, I'll get more skilled at the masking part too. Okay, now I have a phthalo blue. Okay, one of the maybe chief, that might be putting it too strong. One of the things you should be noticing about when I'm doing these large glazes like this, almost always, I color way up. For instance, here's a mixture of phthalo and ultramarina, and I want to paint this building right here. Okay, so here's how I paint this building. All right, my students often have a hard time doing that. If they say their mentality is, I'm going to paint that building, so they launch into that kind of painting, right? Part of me wants to say, doggone it, you guys are always saying, I wish I could get loose. Forgive me for putting on a mocking tone, but some things need to be mocked, and so that you can get the heck over them, okay? Stop saying you want to paint loose and paint loose. Just paint loose. Now let me, and so 2 hands, big brushes, take your glasses off, turn off the lights, and you're loose. But you don't even have to do all those other things. Just paint loose. Let me get, since I've lost, now here I am painting a little bit tight. Nah, enough of that. That changed my mind. All right. Where else do I want some bluish stuff? Since I still have blue on these brushes. Down here there's a car right there in the foreground. Vehicular traffic. Let me talk about this painting loose for a minute. First of all, as you may know, I have forsworn, I've sworn off using the term loose, paint loose. That to me is I don't use that. That's not what but let me use it because that's what most of you use for the moment. You say, I want to paint loose. Well, many early journey, not all, but many early journey painters, they say they want to paint loose. Bear with me for a minute because I think this analysis could be helpful for some of you. You say you want to paint loose because you've heard from all your instructors, all your friends, all your heroes, all your mentors that you're supposed to want to paint loose. So you obediently pick up the mantra and say, I want to paint loose. But the real reason that many early journey painters have a hard time painting loose is because even though mentally they've bought the assertion, pardon me here, I'm going to get on my hands and knees and clean up a little bit of all the stuff I just dripped on the floor. So they mentally assent to the notion, I want to paint loose. All good painters paint loose. Do you follow me? So that it's like mentally, but they don't really know why they want to paint loose. And I've answered that question many times. I'll just do it really briefly here. The reason you want to paint loose is because what really draws human beings in two-dimensional art is a juxtaposition, is this conflict, if you will, between representational realism and abstract marks mashed together. That's one way to put it. And hello, Ursula. Thank you. How do you paint with 2 brushes? Good. Ursula, was I picking on you, my dear? Didn't mean to. Hello. I've missed a whole bunch of people. Good. Bonnie, Kathleen, Melinda, Leanne. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Old friends. Leanne, how fun. Oh my goodness. Leanne. Summer of 78. Leanne was -2 years old. Oh my goodness. I love seeing you occasionally on Facebook, of course, Leanne. What fun. Now, not that I'm not thrilled about all the rest of you who are watching, I am, but you gotta admit, Leanne was a special friend way back in the mid to late 70s. So special shout out. Who else is over here on YouTube? So I've got YouTube going. I got Judy's Quilts and Watercolor, Brenda, Michael McEwen again, thank you. Andrew Snarls, isn't the tackiness of the tape pretty strong? That's correct. It is not low tack, it's high tack. No, I am not concerned about the tape taken off the tape. Uncle 60, yeah, the stuffness of stuff. Boy, yes, amen. Bless your kid with health, Uncle, working at a grocery store. Yeah, you guys are good. Uncle started painting with 2 hands. And Brenda, you can wander when, okay. And Maggie asked, do I have any classes scheduled? I do not. I'm in a funny time. I've been teaching for the last 10 years or more. I've taught on a very frequent, regular basis at my local Jerry's Artorama store. And for some reason, and I don't think it's on purpose, I just think the new person who's in charge of administrating, she and I have failed to put our heads together, and either I got kicked off the roster, which I doubt very much. It's possible. Either they got tired of me. I don't think that's likely. Or it's just an oversight. I think that's likely. Anyway, so I find myself with very little on the schedule for this coming year. So I tell you, here's the way it works, gang. I have an art class prospectus, I called it, already worked out, already printed out, so to speak, already, ready to send. So if anybody anywhere in the world, literally, wants me to come and teach, just ask me and I'll send you. It's simply a matter if we can get enough students. That's all there is to it. I tell you how much I need to be paid for travel, for food, travel and lodging, and how much I need to be paid per student. And we just crunch the numbers. And if the numbers add up, then I come and teach. So I have taught in several places around the country. I'm not teaching is not what I do mostly. So I don't go to sleep at night hoping or wondering where I'm going to teach next. But I do enjoy it. But I'm just, like I said, at this point in my career, I'm just not going to, I forgot some buildings down here. How about that? That's right, there's plenty of time for adding things. So as you can see, now I'm drawing again. Oh, and one of our new viewers asked, how do you paint with 2 hands? So glad you asked. And all of my regulars said, oh, don't ask him that, don't ask him that. Because that's one of my most frequent rants, if you will. One of my most frequent is how I started painting with 2 hands and why I paint with 2 hands. All right, too late. You saw it. Somebody asked. So real quickly, I started painting with 2 hands about 12 or 13 years ago. I don't know, I should have written it down, but I didn't. And first of all, I read, as many of you have read, that Leonardo da Vinci painted with 2 hands. And you know how some things come to you, some things just come to you. And so many years ago, I read Da Vinci painted with 2 hands, and it was just like a light bulb came on, like a cartoon, like a light bulb over my head. And I just said, is anybody paying attention here? Leonardo da Vinci, one of the consummate geniuses you know, in human history, painted with two hands. How come we don't talk about that? That was number one. Then number two, so these are the silly reasons why I decided to start painting with two hands. The number two was, you know, so I'm 66 now, so, you know, 12 years ago I was in my early 50s, and I looked around at people older than me, and I just recognized that human beings, as they age, we tend to lose pieces. As one of our old friends said years ago, she was going to heaven one piece at a time. I've had done some of that already, some of my parts, which will remain unmentioned at the moment, went to heaven ahead of me. But as we age, I don't mean literally lose parts so much as, you know, arthritis, bursitis, a stroke. There's all different kinds of things that can happen, and people as they get old, I'm talking about, you know, late 80s and 90s, especially. I hope I can forestall this till that stage of life. Anyway, we tend to lose pieces and parts, and so I simply thought, well, doggone, if I lose my right arm, I'm screwed because I'm a very right-handed painter. So I decided, Da Vinci, old age, I'm going to start painting with two hands. So I just did. I just started, period. It was as awkward as all get out. I promise, I was as monodextric, as monodextrous a human being as you've ever seen. I was not in the least ambidextrous, but I had made up my mind. And so I started out by doing crazy things like telling my left hand to clean the brushes, you know, swoosh them in the water. My left hand did not like doing that. I just said, shut up and clean the brushes. And then I started forcing my left hand to do things like gesso the canvas. My left hand did not like gessoing the canvas. And I just said, shut up. I'm the boss here. Left hand, gesso the canvas. Okay, I'll be there as soon as I can, probably 10 minutes. And of course, I started forcing myself just to paint with my left hand. My left hand did not like doing it. It complained every minute of the way. It complained all the time. But I just said, shut up and paint. I'm the boss here. Left hand, shut up and paint. And it was about 3 years, I remember, could take you to the spot on the street, way down there. I was painting. It was during a festival, which is, you know, that's pretty standard for me. Wherever there's a festival on this main street, I'm there painting. I was doing a 36 by 48 inch painting. Standing there painting, and all of a sudden I realized, this is about 3 years into this two-handed experiment, all of a sudden I realized, my goodness, I've been painting for several minutes now with my left hand, and I didn't even notice. So that was a red letter day, because that's what I call ambidextrous. Now, some people have argued with me about what is the true essence of ambidexterity. I don't care to get into that argument, whatever. To me, ambidextrous, because there's some of you who are really ambidextrous, and so you say to me, you're not really, okay, whatever. I don't know what the definition, doesn't matter. To me, ambidextrous is using both hands with dexterity, shall we say. Anyway, so, but here's the real important part of that story, is that even though my left hand was just as, I mean, really spastic would have to be the word. Even though my left hand was just as spastic as it could be, the day that I started painting with both hands, my paintings improved instantly. Even though, again, understand, even though my left hand couldn't, you know, paint its way out of a paper sack, to the silly expression, even though I was horribly not ambidextrous, I'm convinced my paintings improved. So yours can too. You don't have to wait for that 3-year magic moment. And I don't know the physiology of that. We've all heard, you know, that our left brain and our right brain do this and that and thus and so on. And I've done enough research to know that It ain't necessarily so, all that kind of folk science. Be that as it may, my brain feels different when I use my left hand. Anyway, so there you go. And I used to be quite kind and generous and patient with my students and say, well, I paint with two hands, you don't really need to. But that was back when I was kind and generous and patient. Now that I'm more ornery, I say to my student, no, you will. And that's the one bit of instruction whenever I run into a young person, be they 7 or 17. If I run into a young budding artist, I say, I just have one instruction for you. Okay, you ready? Here it is. Start drawing with both hands. So it's, now, some of you say, well, I watched you do portraits last week and you were painting completely. Okay, right. So there are still times when I revert, if you will, back to my right hand when I'm doing not hyper, but when I'm doing like portraits, you know, tight, accuracy is the issue. And even that's, what's the word? So I'm still on the way. Several years ago, I was doing a live figure drawing class, not teaching it, just attending it. And I said, wait a minute, I should put my money where my mouth is, so to speak. And so I started, and so I do a lot of drawing now with both hands, a lot. Anyway, there you go. So that's part of the left-handed. I think everybody should do it. I absolutely think everybody should do it. And okay, here's part of the reason I've gotten more ornery over the years. Do you guys know any musicians? Of course, many of you are musicians. Virtually every musician you know, plays with two hands. Some, 2 hands and 2 feet, organists and drummers. And absolutely nobody goes to a concert, looks at the piano player and say, golly, look at that guy, he's playing with, or girl, she's playing with 2 feet, 2 hands, 2 feet, playing with 2 hands. Nobody does that. That's ridiculous. All right, you with me? So, for some reason, in my opinion, musicians have just gotten a pass on, artists. Artists have just considered themselves to have gotten a pass in this regard. Many other, all great basketball players have forced themselves to be ambidextrous. You know, a lot of other athletes are ambidextrous. Virtually every musician you know, it uses both hands. Nobody thinks anything of it. But artists, somehow we got a pass. So I think it's time to take the pass back, if you will, and say, no, I'm sorry, this is going way too long, but when I watch other people now paint on YouTube and they paint with one hand, it literally drives me nuts. And I say, what's the matter, you know? So, yeah, old war injury or something? How come you're not using your other hand? It really, I don't say that out loud because I know the answer is, but it really irritates me. I don't mean I get irritated about it, but my body twitches in sympathy with their subdominant or with their lack of use of the other hand. It's like, what are you doing? Get that other hand up there. What do you think that's for? If God had wanted you to use 2 hands, he would have wait a minute. All right, and so like I said, don't ask me that again. I'll go into another rant yet one more time. It's been a while since I gave you that rant, so maybe it's okay. So at the moment, I'm having fun drawing. Again, just little by little, trying to add the detail and accuracy. So I'm feeling free, of course, to move things around as I realize, oh wait, that object needs to be moved left, right, up, down, and so forth. Okay, like I just moved all those windows a little bit. At the end of this phase, so this is really 2 stages, right? First I did the glazing, and now I'm doing the drawing. That's two separate phases. At the end of it here, I will look and consider whether Oh yeah, this line comes off. See, so I had a line here. Now I'm looking, go, oh, wait a minute. That should be way up here. And those kinds of mistakes are not only okay, they're actually celebrated. It actually makes my painting better when I have these little iterations and changes of mind, reflected in the painting. Actually makes the painting more interesting. I was going to say something. What was it? Oh, so at the end of this stage, hang on, let me close the front door. It's nice and cool out here today. I will pause and see if I want to. I probably will want to mask more bits, yeah. And then I'll do my second layer of white. This easel can go up until it hits the ceiling, and then we better stop. I have punched holes in the ceiling in the past. I try to draw the line at punching holes in the ceiling, especially after I go to all the work of repairing the holes in the ceiling. Funny little story. I actually took this photograph that's up there that I'm looking at. I actually took the photograph just earlier this week or last week, end of last week. Yeah, Friday, a week ago today. And this is a commission, so I had taken several photographs going downtown several times. Anyway, this was last Friday, so the photograph was taken right in the midst of this coronavirus lockdown, and so the street was almost empty. There were cars parked, but not every parking spot was filled, which is, you never find that in normal days. But there was almost no cars driving down the street. So in the photograph, I spent some time, was it yesterday morning? I spent quite a bit of time in Photoshop adding cars and pedestrians. I could have just made them up, of course, and I will indeed. Now that I've added them in the photograph, I'm not obligated to copy them, right? I don't. But it just like these characters are not actually in the photo. Anyway, so I've added added life to the photograph in Photoshop, added cars. And I will look at those cars in the photograph fairly carefully, by the way, because I don't like drawing cars without reference. I used to do that. I used to just draw cars out of my head. Then I realized I was not doing a good job of drawing cars out of my head. So I have mended my ways, mended my strategy there. All right, breakfast awaits, and I have to wait for this to dry anyway before I can apply more packaging tape, more masking. And I'm excited about this experiment today. So I'm going to when I come back, I'll do a separate broadcast. I'll probably just call it Part B or something, 877B. But when I come back, I'll do more tape wherever I want it, whatever. And again, it's not an issue of realism. It's just any little bits like this little bit of color right here. I kind of like. I might cover that up. I like this little shock of color. Anyway, I'll cover up whatever I want, and then I'll paint in white, and then we go from there. Thanks for watching, you guys. I hope you can go join me again later. Bye-bye. Let me read some of your chats before I go. No, I do not sign my paintings with two hands. Hello, Aslan. Oh boy, a whole bunch of people. This is a good day for, hello, Raven 6. The Raven 6 is the person 3 years ago who was watching me on a regular basis, and then the springtime came, the weather got warm, and for the first time since I was wearing shorts. Raven, you said nice knees. Good, Ursula. Glad to hear it's fascinating. Gwen, Maggie, thank you. Glad you're learning a lot. Doreen is watching. Hello, Doreen. And David, Mercer, Jeremy. David saying some perspective is not right. I will look at that. Maggie saw my paintings in a doctor's office. That's good. I understand. Let's see over here on YouTube. Michael McEwen says, "Oh no." Oh, okay. I'll get laughing at Uncle 60. Parts of him are going to heaven, parts of him are going to hell. All right. Love y'all. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.